Welcome back to another episode of Legacy Battle. I am Michael Adams. My panelist tonight from the Gridiron Battle Zone, Brian King, Director of Operations from the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame, Scott Crawford. You can tell Canadian, he's wearing that Blue Jays hat over there. And of course, from Steelers Nation South, Rollo Coughlin. He'll be around here too in a few minutes. We have a debate tonight of baseball's greatest middle relievers, kind of the forgotten and underlooked position, in my opinion. Qualifications tonight, though, you had to be under 50 saves to qualify for our list because otherwise you're getting into a lot of really good closers. But we're joined by a 10-year MLB pitcher with over 400 innings pitched. And check this incredible career ERA of 2.41 and an over 3-to-1 strikeout to walk ratio. Just fantastic stats, fantastic career. We want to welcome the guest that honestly has had the best name we've ever had, Mike Adams. Mike, thank you so much for coming on.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Awesome. As always, we're going to have our Q&A after for Mike. But we're going to jump into our debate. Honorable mentions, guys that just missed our list today. Steve Reed, Arthur Rhodes, Scott Shields, Larry Anderson, and going back a ways, Eric Plunk. And, we can throw Mike on that list too because he just had a fantastic career. But let's start with Brian.
All right, so I got Jeff Nelson, 6'8", 225-pound right-hander. Played the vast majority of his career with the Seattle Mariners and the New York Yankees. The Nelson, he had a tricky sidearm delivery, and he was great at throwing sliders. And he had a very effective fake to third, throw to first pickoff move that he used until they finally outlawed it. Nelson averaged 68 appearances per season over the course of his 15-year Major League career. He ended up with about twice as many Ks as walks and an ERA of 3.41, which is respectable considering he spent his entire career in the American League with the DH. Nelson was an important part of the late 90s, early 2000s Yankees dynasty, winning four World Series championships. In 2001, Nelson was dealt to Seattle, but his Yankees manager, Joe Torre, did not forget how important Nelson's contributions were. When Torre was putting together an all-star roster for the 2001 game, he added Nelson in an ultimate show of respect to what he brought to the table. Nelson was able to come through when his team needed him the most. During his career, opposing batters only hit 191 against his pitching when runners were in scoring position with two outs. And in the postseason, his career ERA is 2.65, which is 0.76 lower than his career average. And he also appeared at 55 postseason games, which is the third most in Major League Baseball history.
Awesome. Mike, so I'm going to come to you with this. I don't know if you remember his pickoff move. If you do, what'd you think about it? And is it harder to pitch as a Yankee than it is to pitch not as a Yankee? And finally, like a reliever in an all-star game, we never see middle relievers make it. How awesome was that?
Yeah, no, that's great. That's a true testament to the middle reliever guys. I had one year in 2010 or no 2011 where I was kind of on the brink of making the All-Star team, and Bochy actually came up to me when we were playing them right before the All-Star game and kind of explained to me why he wasn't going to choose me for the All-Star game. Mainly because, they had just went to the World Series. His guys, he said he wanted to stick with his guys because they helped him get to the World Series, which my reply was, well, that was last year. The stats from this year are for the All-Star game. But I respected his decision. I actually respected the fact that he actually came up to me and talked to me about it. Um, but needless to say, I didn't go. But for the fact that Torrey kind of did the same thing, honoring Jeff Nelson for what he did the year before and what he did with the Yankees, kind of explains a little bit about it.
And do you think it's harder to pitch in a Yankees uniform because of just the iconicness of it?
I don't know because I never pitched for the Yankees. But being in the American League East, that knowing, from back then, just and just being in the American League in general with the DH back then, it is a little bit tougher to throw in the American League than it is the National League, just because you don't get that break from the pitcher. But that being said, in late innings, uh, you know, we were facing a pinch hitter. We weren't facing the pitcher, for the most part. But once again, that being said, the DH is a guy that was, probably a lot better hitter than the pinch hitter they were putting in there to substitute for the pitcher.
Yeah, when he was pitching, we're talking like David Ortiz and Edgar Martinez, so two of the
Oh
best of
yeah.
all time there. So yeah. Well, let's move on to our second pitcher. Go ahead, Scott.
Yeah, well, as you might guess, Mike, being up in Canada, I picked a guy named Paul Quantrill from Port Hope, Ontario, just the other side of Toronto. He pitched 14 years in the show from 92 to 2005. He pitched 841 games over his big league career, which when he retired, he was ranked in the top 35 all time for games pitched. He was a starter at the beginning of his career, but his last 9 years, he was a reliever. He averaged 73 games a year as a reliever his last 9 years in the big league. So he's one of those guys that had a rubber arm, never got hurt. Even his last year in the show, he pitched in 50 games in 2005 with three different teams. 68 wins, a 3.83 ERA, over 1,200 innings, 18.1 WAR. He led the league in games pitched 4 years in a row, 2001 to 2004. He pitched 80 plus games each of those 4 years in a row and was an all-star in 2001. And his son, of course, Cal's pitching for Atlanta right now. Pitched most year in Miami, had a couple great years with Cleveland, Cal did. And Paul's in our hall. He's a Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame inductee in 2010. So Paul had quite the rubber arm. He got to pitch for the Yankees, mostly the Blue Jays, a little bit in Boston as well. So he was a lot of time in the American League East during those powerful Yankee teams. That's my guy, Paul Quantrill.
So, Mike, your thoughts on Paul and what does it do to a reliever's arm pitching 80 plus games in 4 straight seasons? That's incredible.
I'll tell you what, man, that's a workhorse. I had, I think, a few seasons of 70 appearances, and it wears on you. But for a guy to go 80, 86, 89, 86, I mean, that's remarkable. I mean, because you got to think about that's just the times they got into the games. That's not even the get up and the dry hump of in the bullpen. So you add on another 20 dry humps or so. Well, shit, if he got up that many times, he's probably in the game probably most of the time. But yeah, I mean that's the definition of a workhorse. That's a guy that's going out there. I mean, with the rubber arm, and it's amazing that he pitched 14 years in the big leagues. With the workload that he had, and in the year that he had 89 appearances, I mean he had a 1.75 ERA. So that's impressive. That is very impressive.
Yeah. Rollo, go ahead.
I have Joaquin Antonio Benoit Peña from Santiago, Dominican Republic. He signed with the Texas Rangers at the ripe young age of 18, eventually making his MLB debut in 2001, making one start, going 5 innings and giving up 6 earned runs and 3 home runs. Tough debut. But he would go on in 2002 as projected starter and made 13 starts with a 5.31 ERA. He would struggle with control, giving up 23 home runs and only striking out 87 batters, posting a 5.59 ERA. In 2005, he started to make more appearances out of the bullpen, making spot starts going 4-4, but lowering his ERA in 32 games to 3.72. He would move to the bullpen full time in 2006, but it was 2007 he actually found his stride. He would appear in 70 games, he would appear in 70 games and 82 innings, striking out the same amount of batters in 30 less innings as he did in the 2003 season. He would tear his rotator cuff in 2009 and missed that entire season. He then signed with Tampa Bay Rays, and there is where he became one of the best relievers in the league. He would make 63 appearances and post a 1.34 ERA, only giving up 9 earned runs a season. He would also win the Tony Conigliaro Award that season. And then he would sign with the Tigers in 2010, worth a deal worth $16.5 million. He didn't quite live up to the previous season, finishing with a 2.59 ERA. He struck out 63 batters in 61 innings, allowing just 47 hits and 20 earned runs. He did, however, in the playoffs, give up a grand slam to David Ortiz in a game that they would lose. In 2013, he was the closer for the Tigers. He replaced Jose Valverde. converting 24 of 26 save chances with a 2.01 ERA. And then in 2013, he would sign with the Padres, and then the Mariners, the Jays, and then the Phillies and Pirates would round out his career.
So, Mike, this guy moved around to 8 different teams. That's a lot of travel for one thing. But what's that do to the psyche? Like never staying with one team for more than a few years, you think? And what are your thoughts on Joaquin Benoit?
So Joaquin was kind of in during my time. He was my era, so I had a firsthand look at seeing Joaquin pitch. Um, as far as he was in Texas for a good 5, 6 years, and then after that, that's kind of when he kind of started bouncing around a little bit. It was 3 years, 2 or 3 years at certain stops. Um, yeah, I don't know if it truly does anything to the psyche because you're still employed. I mean, as long as you're still on the field, I mean that's you're doing something right. But I mean, Joaquin, I mean, I remember, my years with being around him or playing against him, just being like, this is one of the guys that I was kind of competing against. So in the so-called middle relief, uh, spots. But yeah, Joaquin was a solid pitcher, man. I mean, I've always been impressed with his career and the way he kind of went about it, and the numbers he continually put up as a reliever. Uh, but uh, but yeah, I mean, he was solid. I mean, and before what a 16-year career. Hell, man, I'll bounce around as many teams as you want me to for 16 years.
Brian, I know you're the Pirates fan. Wasn't he? He got rocked. I know he got rocked with the Pirates that final year, but wasn't he like 40 years old or something? Like he was
Yeah,
super
He
he
old.
was
was
an
up
older
there,
guy.
yeah. Mm.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Well, let's move on to our final player here. That's represented by me, and I know Scott will know this guy. So I got Mark Eichhorn. So pitched from 1982 to 1996. There was a little gap after 82. He had a shoulder injury that occurred in 82, which had to change the way that he pitched, and he became one of those guys that Billy Beane would love. He was a side armor after that because of that shoulder injury. Comes back and is a reliever. He plays all the way to 1996. He's got played for 4 teams, and that was the Blue Jays, Braves, Angels, and Orioles. He won 2 World Series with the Toronto Blue Jays. He's got a 3.0 career ERA in 885 two-thirds innings pitched. Career record of 48 and 43. Playoffs, he's got 4 appearances, pitched 4 1/3 innings, 0 earned runs, only gave up 1 hit. In 2015, ESPN ranked him as the #1 middle reliever of all time. It's probably because of his 1986 season, which was probably the greatest season of all time for a middle reliever. He goes 14-6, pick up 14 wins as a reliever, 1.72 ERA that season, 157 innings pitched, 10 saves, all in relief, and averaged more than a strikeout per inning, and that was better than all of the American League pitchers that year. And a little thing to add here, no one's mentioned this stat on anybody, but he is an excellent fielder. Only 2 errors in 243 chances over his career. That's for a 992 fielding percentage. He attempted comebacks in 97 with the Tampa Bay Rays, 99 with the Dodgers, and 2000 with Toronto, but he never got back to the major leagues, unfortunately, at that point. But just a heck of a career. Mike, your thoughts on Mark?
So Mark was the one guy that when you sent me the list of that, I really didn't. I mean, I've heard the name, but I really didn't know much about his career, so I kind of like looked into it a little bit. Um, but that 1986 season is ridiculous. I mean, I mean, when you talk about 69 appearances and then 157 innings, I mean that I, I don't even know how the hell he did that. I mean, to pitch in 69 games and then pitch 157 innings, that's unheard of. I mean, I didn't even know that was possible. And then on top of it, to have a 1.72 ERA, I could see why that would be the #1 relief outing of all time. But uh, but yeah, I mean that you know I read that he had the arm injury in 82 and then missed 4 years or 3 or 4 years and then came back. That says a lot about his character and his resilience to kind of get back into this. Uh, but but yeah, man, I mean that 86 season, that is unheard of.
And all those attempted comebacks. I mean, he must have really loved the game. Just keep trying to come back. Hey, Scott, you're a Toronto Blue Jays expert. I know that might be a little bit before your time, but do you remember anything from that '86 season?
Yeah, I mean, I sort of started falling in love with the Blue Jays after the '85 season, of course, first time in the playoffs. And you just remember like every time, every game, he was out there and just his knuckles were hitting the ground when he was throwing the ball, right? He was just so far down on the side and just the uniqueness of him was like, whoa, what's that guy doing? And
Yeah.
and he was out there every game and multiple innings every game almost it seems. So it was 86 is a pretty cool season to watch Icorn pitch.
Well, we'll move into our vote here. Hopefully, guys won't consider him a one season wonder because he did have a really great career as well. But let's move into our vote. Cannot pick your own. Brian, who you taking?
I'm impressed with Scott's guy, Paul. There, I mean, I mean, to have that many appearances in consecutive seasons like that is very impressive.
Okay, Scott.
I'm going with my side armor Icorn there. I think his that inning, his comeback, his ERA, his over 560 games, Blue Jays World Series winner. Let's go with Icorn.
Rollo.
Gonna have to go with Scott's guy, Paul Quantrill.
Okay. And yeah, man, I listened to everybody's list and I was kind of a little torn. I think Ben Wall had a couple really down years that turned me away from him. But Brian, actually, I'm going to go with your guy, Jeff Nelson, because it to me to be able to pitch in Yankee Stadium is just it's harder. I don't care what anybody says. It's harder to pitch in Yankee Stadium. There's just so much pressure. It's like playing for the Montreal Canadiens. If you're a hockey guy or the Toronto Maple Leafs, it's just magnified 100 times. So I'm gonna go with Nelson. Mike, we come to you. Who would you pick?
Well, I mean, Joaquin had a few down years, but overall he had a lot of really, really good years. Um, and he played 16 years. But that being said, I am going to go with Jeff Nelson because of the playoff success also. I mean, I mean, you can't, it's hard to fault the other guys because you're only on the team that you are on. I mean, you can't just be like, everybody wants to pitch in the playoffs. But pitching in the playoffs is difficult. The the pressure is three times more than the regular season, and pitching a Yankee for the Yankees and stuff like that. I think that that says a little bit also. But I think Jeff Nelson overall, when you add regular season and playoffs, I think he had the better career.
Nice job, guys. So that's two for Paul Quantrill, two for Jeff Nelson. Tie in our show. When we have a tie, whoever the guest voted for counts a little more. So that's a win for Jeff Nelson and Brian. Let's move into our Q&A, guys. We'll go the same order we did our players. Go ahead, Brian.
All right, so Mike, let's talk a little bit about the mindset of a middle reliever. You does your mental approach change depending on the scenario of the game? Like, for example, if you're going into the game protecting a one-run lead compared to like going in to try to stop the opponent's momentum whenever they're in the middle of a big inning, is there like a difference there? And then also you mentioned like the whole like the dry hump thing, like you warm up and then you don't go in. I mean, what does that do to your mentality as well?
Well, so yes, the mentality changes a little bit depending on situation. If you're, coming as a seventh, eighth inning guy, for the most part, it's three runs or less, when you're in the game. So if it's a tie ball game or we're up by three, those are usually kind of the scenarios I was kind of put in. So if there's a three-run lead, I knew I had a little bit of cushion, so I could work a little bit differently. If I came in with to pick up an inning for somebody with that maybe they I got put in a situation where I have a runner on or two runners on or something. Well, then I kind of think about, okay, what's the score of the game? And I used to tell the reliever also, be like, look, man, like I'm gonna do my best and not let you run score, but most importantly, I want to make sure that they don't tie the ball game up. So just depending on the situation, it was, hey, we're up by one. I'm gonna pitch you a little bit differently. I'm not gonna maybe go into your hot zone. When I say hot zone, I mean, I always in my scouting report, I always wanted to know where their power zone was, which was to me their hot zone, and where would they miss pitches at. So I was a little bit more unlikely to attack a hot zone, in a 0 to 1 run game, or if there's runners on base in certain situations where they can tie the ball game up. So yeah, so I mean, different situations. You pitch it a little bit differently just to, the main thing was you don't want them to tie the ball game back up. So yes, so depending on the score, runners, who was up to bat, who was on deck, you did kind of pitch a little bit differently. What was the second question again? I'm sorry.
Whenever you would warm up and
Oh,
then get
the
the
dry
call.
hump.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes it was good, sometimes it sucked. I mean, it all kind of depended on your workload the previous week or so. If you've kind of been working a lot the past few days, sometimes the situation is like you got to go in, and you do get dry hump, but somehow we extend the lead, and so it's kind of like, oh, thank God, like I can save those 15, 20 pitches, or it was you hadn't pitched in a few days, and you're getting ready to go in, and all of a sudden we blow the game open. So there's like, all right, so go ahead and sit down. Then you're like, God, dog it, like I would really want to get in this game. Or there's certain matchups you're looking forward to, where I remember my rookie year, we're playing against San Francisco, and it was my first opportunity to get to face Bonds, and so I think it was a 3 game series, I believe, and game one they kind of, hey, if we get the bond, seventh inning situation, like, hey, if we get the Bonds, you're facing them. So I was jacked up. I mean, adrenaline flowing. I mean, I really wanted to face Bonds, and I don't remember exactly what happened, but the scenario didn't play out the way it was. So they're like, all right, sit down. The next day, kind of same situation. The seventh inning comes up. They were kind of going through. If we get the Bonds, you're in. So I'm fired up. And at that time, I was, my velocity was 93 to 96 or so, something like that. But in the bullpen, I felt like I was throwing like 106. Just so jacked up, ready for that situation. And once again, man, something happened, and all right, you're not going in for, say this. So I got dry hump back-to-back days, uh, hoping I was going to face Bonds. So game 3 comes around, same damn thing happens. Hey, if we get the Bonds, you're facing them. Well, this time it all played out, and I went in to face Bonds. And I used to always be like, this was '04, so this was in prime Barry time, and I used to always be like, you see the pitchers throwing pitches to Barry, and they short hop by 3 foot. They throw it 6 feet out of the batter's box, and I'd be like, man, what are y'all doing? Like, y'all that scared of this dude? And I remember my first pitch, I threw it, and it was literally 3 feet short of the home plate. And I was like, oh, okay, I get it now. I get it now. So, but I ended up getting back into the count, and I think I had him like 1-2 or something like that. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna punch Barry out. Like, I'm throwing a little backdoor curveball and punch him out like this. I mean, and I had, I'm facing Barry Bonds. I had all the faith in myself, and I knew how good I was, and I threw a good little breaking ball, had him out in front, and he just kind of flipped it over flipped it over the shortstop. And at the time, I think he was going for number 500 or 600, something like that. So it was extra heightened. But when I got out of it, I was like, well, at least he got a little punch base hit off me. So one of my keys to fame for me personally was like, hey, would you face Barry? Like, yeah. Like, what'd you do? He just blew the little single over his shortstop. So I in my eyes, I won.
Hey, Mike, you picture some pretty amazing pitchers over your career, some Hall of Famers, obviously. So I'm thinking like Greg Maddux in 2008 with the Padres, the Phillies starting rotation with Roy Halladay, Cliff Lee, Cole Hamel in 2013 with the Phillies. What do you want to talk about any of those 4 pitchers? What did you learn from them? Why were they Hall of Fame pitchers? Did they ignore you because you were a reliever? Like how did it work with with those 4 Hall of Famers or could be Hall of Famers and what you saw from them when you played with them?
You can also throw Trevor Hoffman in there. So when I came over to San Diego, I you know, I so I was up in the big leagues in '04, '05 a little bit, and then '06 kind of for a real short stint. And then I missed all of '07 for injuries. So when I got back up to the big leagues in '08, it was, one of those things where I had been out for so long that I was so much more great. I mean, the original call up is awesome. It's great. But then when it kind of gets taken away from you, you reflect on it and you realize what you lost or what you've been missing. And going back to San Diego or getting called up in '08 with San Diego, uh, it meant so much more. And I remember after my first outing in San Diego, uh, I came into the dugout, went back up to the clubhouse. I want to say Maddox either started that game or was just I really don't remember, but he was hit. My locker was two lockers away from his, so it was me. Uh, what was the catcher's name? He was with the Cubs also. Uh, anyway, so me,
Wasn't
the
Hundley, was it?
catcher. No, Hundley was always with the Padres. Uh, so this catcher he's with the Cubs with us. I remember he got hit in the face and they had to like pull his skin down to repair his orbital
Michael
and stuff.
Barrett. Michael
Michael
Barrett.
Barrett. There you go, Michael
Yeah.
Barrett. So it was me, Barrett, and then Maddox. And I remember after my outing, I came up and I was sitting in my chair and Maddox was over there in his chair. And this is probably in the eighth inning or something like that. And I was kind of reflecting and going back over everything I kind of went through to kind of get back to where I was. And Maddox is like, what's the big deal, man? You all right? And I was like, man, I'm just glad to be back here. And he kind of had a little chat with me and it kind of like, hey, kind of like pumping me up. And because he kind of went through the same thing where he went down and kind of came back up, not as long as I did, but he kind of had a little pep talk with me and just kind of telling me, yes, appreciate this, and you know what, don't ever go back down there. I said, you take advantage of this and you run with it. Don't let this, don't let what happened before define you. You have a whole new chance to rewrite your career, and I took those words. I mean, for me, that was the best advice he ever gave me, and then so for him, you know, me getting called back up, and I was still young. I was mid 25, 26 years old, something like that. And there's Greg, 40 something years, 40 years old or something like that. He's in his last year of his career. And just those few little words always stuck with me. And then, also having Trevor in the bullpen in San Diego, just being able to see how he went about his business, how he prepared, how the mindset Trevor had. And you got to remember, Trevor was topping out at 87 miles an hour or something like that. So Trevor, he pitched. He knew how to pitch, but he also had that damn changeup that was Bugs Bunny changeup. I used to always wonder, like, dude, how do y'all not hit this guy? But then I'll see his changeup and how much it moved and how much deception was in it. I was like, God, dog, like this dude is filthy. And so just being able to see Trevor go about his business, and it went from the time that he showed up to the ballpark until he left the ballpark. Trevor, he had a routine. Once he got to the ballpark, he had his routine. And that taught me, hey, build a routine, get a routine, stick with a routine. And if you stick with your routine, you'll never be caught off guard. Because I used to always kind of watch him in the bullpen, like, how he went about his business. He would come out in I think the fifth inning, and then every half inning, he did the same thing over and over and over and over. So that helped me and taught me how to build my routine. And it became of the same thing with him, you know, in the fifth inning. I mean, the first four innings, I would kind of watch the game, kind of pay attention to what was going on. Depending on who was pitching, I'd see it. If they had similarities to what I did, I kind of base a little bit of a scouting report off them. Um, and then come fifth inning, my routine kicked in. And it was the same thing every day. And I remember when I was a rookie in Milwaukee, I didn't have a routine. And I remember being caught off guard one outing. And when I got caught off guard, I ended up giving up runs, and I was like, God, dog, like, you know, and after that, I was like, once I got to San Diego, I was like, all right, I'm never gonna get caught off guard again. So with Trevor, it was learn your routine, build your routine. from the time you show up to the ballpark to the time you leave the ballpark, and everything was the same for me. If I pitched, my routine after the game was the same every single time. And then going to and then I came to Texas and I had after my first year in Texas, we got Joe Nathan. So, here's nothing. I was always behind all-star closers. In Milwaukee, it was Dan Kolb. In San Diego, it was Trevor Hoffman, then Heath Bell. And then I came to Texas and I was behind Neftali Feliz and then Joe Nathan. And then I go to Philly and I'm behind Papelbon. Now, Papelbon wasn't the same guy that he was in Boston, but he was still a pretty damn good pitcher. And, so I was always stuck behind an all-star closer. And so once Joe came in, I kind of picked Joe's brain, and me and Joe were locker mates. So me and Joe, all the time, kind of talking and kind of around each other. I'm picking Joe's brain, learning from him, and then I go to San Diego. I'm sorry, I go to Philly, and then like you said, I have Cliff, Cole, Doc, and then Papelbon. And me and Cliff are locker mates in Philly. So kind of seeing how he went about his business. Cliff was a dog. He went out there and he would battle his ass off, but he was a damn good pitcher. And then right next to him was Cole. So I always kind of hear their conversations, pick their brains on what stuff that was going on. Now Doc was a little bit different, and the Doc was a little bit harder to talk to. Very quiet guy, kind of come to himself. I remember I had one good conversation with him in the training, not the training, in the weight room. We were on the bikes, and finally he kind of said something to me, and we kind of started talking a little bit, and kind of picked his brain a little bit. But that guy was a very similar to Maddox in some sense, where they're very in depth on what they do, very I call it scientific. I call them scientists because they're excuse me, they're deep diving into all this stuff. But Doc was a very in-depth dude, and just being able to talk to all those guys and kind of pick their brains and pull little pieces off of them, it definitely helped me in my career.
Hey, Mike, 2011, Game 7, Texas Cardinals, your home state team coming to seventh inning. What was that feeling like going into the game in Game 7? And is there added pressure in that moment when you're pitching in Game 7?
Definitely added pressure in Game 7 of the World Series, especially after what happened the night before in Game 6. I think we were down by 2 runs at the time in Game 7. And we knew that I knew that I had to try to find a way to keep the score that at what it was. Unfortunately, I ended up giving up a run and getting pulled out of the game. But yeah, I mean, in Game 7 of the World Series, obviously it's do or die, and it's just it was heartbreaking how it all went down, how it all happened for us. But yeah, I mean, the pressure that was probably the most pressure that I've ever felt in a single game in my whole career. And at that time of the year, you're just so worn down and so tired, and then you add on the emotional, what would you call it? The emotional distress, I guess, of what happened the night before, added on to that. Definitely played a huge part in, I think, not only my performance, but I think all of our performances that night.
Well, kudos to you for picking up the win in Game 2 of that World Series, though. So, but
I think
I
I
want
only
to
got
ask.
one out that game and got the win for it.
Well, you pitched 1 inning, I thought.
Oh, okay, maybe.
The whole eighth inning. Yeah. So,
Oh, that's
but
right, that's right, that's right.
and you guys were down 1-0 when you went in, so they came back and won it for you in the ninth. But my question is something that has plagued a lot of pitchers, and it's for good reason. So you have two career Major League Baseball at bats. Both times you grounded out. But being a pitcher, What's it like staring down an MLB pitcher, being a pitcher, and what was going through your head, getting up there to bat twice in your career?
So my first at bat, I was really pumped about it. I was really pumped about it. I was like, man, like this would be a great story if I can get on base. This will be something that I can hold with me forever, and tell my buddies, hey, I got a base hit in the big leagues. But unfortunately, it didn't play out that way. I ended up grounding out the second. My whole thought process during the at bat was I knew what they were going to do against me. He's going to stay away from me and just pound the outside half of the zone. And so my thought process was, you know what? I know he's going to stay away. I'm going to try to go with it and try to hit it over the second baseman, first baseman side, and try to, get a hit that way. Um, and I think my first at bat, I think I faced Glennon Rush, who was a lefty with the Cubs, and at first pitch, I knew it, right? Fastball away. So okay, I mean, I think it was upper 80s, low 90s, something like that. I was like, you know what? I can see it. I can see it. And you got to realize we don't ever take batting practice either. So, this is my first at bat and since high school. I actually had that back. I had a couple at bats in the minor leagues, but in those at bats, I'm like, I didn't really care about those. But uh, but yeah, so ground out to second base, run it out like whatever. So then later on in that season, I get it. This comes up again where hey, if you come up if you come up to bat, you're going to hit. At this point, I'm like, shit, I don't want to bat. I got to go out there, back out there and pitch. Like the last thing I want to do is go out there, accidentally get on base, and now I got to run, and then wear myself out. Now I can't do my job as a pitcher. So my second at bat, I was not looking forward to it. So I'm just like, I'm just going to stand here and let him strike me out. So he gets, I don't remember what the count was, but he gets two strikes on me. And then I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, oh shit, like don't strike out. Like now your friends are gonna make fun of you for striking out. So now my whole mentality shifts into put the ball in play, try to find a way to get on base. So once again, I don't remember who the pitcher was, but he had kind of the same, he kind of approached me the same way. Everything was away, away, away. So like, all right, you know what? I'm gonna try to do the same thing. I'm gonna try to flip it over to the second baseman, shortstop, or second baseman, first baseman, and let's see if I can get on base. And once again, I go with it, hit a ground ball to second base, probably jog about halfway and curl off. And I'm like, all right, at least I ain't got to run. But once again, the adrenaline kicks up. I'm going, my heart beats racing a little bit faster. So now I'm trying to catch my breath as I go back out for pitch. And I don't remember what my outing was, what happened in my outing, but yeah, after my first at bat, I really didn't want nothing to do with it no more.
Nice. Brian and Scott, you guys both got two votes tonight, so finish us out.
Yeah. Okay. So, Mike, my information is correct. Your first career major league appearance occurred on May 18th, 2004. Your Brewers at the Montreal Expos. You worked the seventh inning. You got 3 outs on 12 pitches, including a strikeout of Termel Sledge. So tell us about that first appearance and what were you feeling immediately after you got the call from the bullpen?
And that actually happened in Puerto Rico also. That's back when the Expos were playing in Puerto Rico.
Oh, I didn't
Uh,
realize
Oh,
that. Okay.
wow.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah. So I made my major league appearance in Puerto Rico. Uh, but I remember this pretty vividly. We're on the third base side, and the phone rings down. Hey, get Adams up, whatever. I get up. I throw my first throw. I throw it out the bullpen. I mean, I missed the catcher. Missed him by about 10, 12 feet. That ball goes out the bullpen, and all the guys kind of look at me, and I look at them, and it's like, oh shit, it just got real. And yeah. After that first throw, I kind of settled down a little bit and kind of got back into a little groove. And then I remember once I walked on the field and got on the mound, I just remember my knees start shaking. I'm like, holy shit. Like I'm literally like my knees are buckling. And I throw my first pitch. I don't remember if it was a ball or a strike. But then after that first pitch, I kind of relaxed a little bit and kind of settled down. And I had a successful outing that game. And luckily, Termel, I played with him 2 years before, I think, in Arizona Fall League. So I knew Termel from there. He was my teammate, and so striking him out first as my first strikeout, I definitely let him know about it later on. But I just remember, the one thing I remember about that outing was throwing the ball out of the bullpen and then just how much my knees were shaking before that first pitch.
Nice. You got to face the Expos, but in Puerto Rico, that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
Well
I,
done.
I, I really, so I never got to go to Montreal. That was the one bad thing about it was I didn't get a chance to go play in Montreal. And I remember all the guys always talking, saying good things about Montreal. I remember they were a little bit upset, like, man, we could be in Montreal instead of Puerto Rico. And I was like, man, I'm just glad to be here right now, dude.
Mm.
That's right. You're in the big leagues, right?
Yeah.
Hey, as we mentioned, I run the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame, and so I see behind you on the wall, pretty cool collection of of jerseys. Your jersey, maybe a Hoffman jersey beside it. You obviously collected stuff as your career went on. Do you have maybe tell us what's on your wall, and do you have a favorite item you collected or kept from your career?
So I got a Beltray, Maddox, Griffey, Trout, Mariano, Nolan, Trevor, Cliff Lee, Cabrera,
Wow.
Ichiro, Tony Gwynn, Michael Young, Darvish, Ryan Sandberg, Pujols, Kershaw, a Doc jersey, CC, Jeter, a Pudge, Rodriguez, a Bo Jackson football jersey, a Jason Witten football jersey, and then right here is just kind of my high school, college, and then all my pro teams. Um,
Wow.
the one, and I have a Michael Jordan poster signed, the wings, the wings poster. Uh, the one thing that it's probably either Jordan or the bow. So growing up, I was a basketball player. I mean, that was my number one sport was basketball. I went to college on a basketball scholarship, played basketball 2 years, and then went back to baseball after 2 years of college basketball. Um, so growing up, I grew up in the Jordan era, and that was the number one athlete of everybody in that time. Um, and then behind him was Bo. So I would probably say my favorite one is probably my Jordan. I have two Jordan signature pieces, so I'd probably say those two are probably my favorite ones. Um, but the one that I personally got, my favorite personal one was probably Muhammad Ali signed boxing glove.
Nice.
Wow.
Yeah, nice. That's
Incredible.
cool. That's quite the collection you have. We need to come over to your house, I think, and check those out.
Yeah, yeah. It's that was one thing. I mean, because I was all even as a younger kid, I was a big collector of little autographs and baseball cards and stuff like that. So then once I got to the big leagues, I have a whole bunch of baseballs signed also that are in my son's bedroom. Uh, but yeah, that was one thing. That was one of the big perks of being in the big leagues and having to, the chance to meet all these baseball players. And then every now and then, when you have other celebrities come in the clubhouse and stuff like that. I would always tell the people like who was in charge that, hey, like let me know if who's coming in town so that way, I can kind of get something for them to sign. So I always took advantage of my opportunity to get some stuff signed.
Awesome. Well, great stuff, Mike. Thank you so much for coming on. It was just a pleasure talking to you.
Oh man, I appreciate y'all having me.
Awesome. I'll remind everybody, hit that like, subscribe, notification buttons if you're listening on YouTube or anything else. Always important. Thank you, everybody, for watching. We'll see everybody next time. Have a great night.